Tonight on E60, the fast, the furious. This is the deadly world of street racing.
There were certain rules. Should you crash, don't expect any help.
Motor racing is a very popular sport in this country. Auto racing in general, open wheel, NASCAR, etc. And there are thousands of people in this country who regularly illegally street race their cars. And it's something that almost every police department in this country deals with on a regular basis. But it's a phenomenon that we haven't really explored before.
Is it really happening in every town? I mean, you know, I live in Connecticut.
Happens everywhere. The National Highway Safety Administration statistics will tell you that there are hundreds of people killed in this country every year in illegal street races in every single state. All 50 states, they have numbers.
How much of the motivation is simply doing something that's wrong?
Oh, that's a huge part of it. It's the thrill
illegal,
factor.
I should say. Yeah.
Rachel, people have always been intoxicated by speed.
You know,
they always want to go fast.
I mean, this is something
like
that goes
knowing
back
I'm
forever.
dodging the cops.
Two guys at a stoplight, you know, revving their engines against each other and decide to go for it, and that's often where somebody gets killed.
In essence, what is the story that you're working on about?
It's about the phenomenon of street racing, how big it is, what the authorities are doing to combat it, who are the people who participate in it, the societal costs of this racing and the injuries, and the people who are left behind.
Are you ready? One, two, three!
Across the country and around the world, it's easy to find scenes like this. Fast cars racing at white-knuckle speeds. Thrill seekers on public roads, endangering their own lives and those of bystanders, often with deadly results.
Are struggling to break through the confusion and the secrets of the sport.
8 people have been killed in the past year in street racing accidents.
Died in a crash after being clocked at 100 miles per hour. For months, San Diego has been battling a problem of young people drag racing, an illegal sport that sometimes turns deadly.
In Maryland tonight, investigators are on the scene of an illegal drag race that turned into chaos overnight.
In suburban Maryland this past February, dozens of people gathered on an unlit highway to watch an illegal street race. The cars sped off, and some in the crowd stepped into the road to watch. As they stood on the highway, this vehicle plowed into them from behind, killing 8. The driver said his vision was obscured by tire smoke from the race. But in July, authorities determined that the driver, Darren Bullock, was participating in another street race and was traveling at more than 100 miles per hour with his headlights off. He and the man he was allegedly racing were indicted on 8 counts of vehicular manslaughter.
That's the end.
In 2003, Leanne Lindsay's 31-year-old son Justin bought his first sports car, a Nissan 350Z.
Before he bought the car, he says, "Mom, I really want this car. I've worked so hard." And I said to him, if that's what you want, you deserve it, because he had worked so hard.
Just 2 weeks later, on this Las Vegas road, Justin raced his car for the first time. So, Bill, this is where the race took place that night?
Yeah.
His best friend, Bill Bittman, dropped the flag to start Justin's second race. Where did the race start?
Well, we went way down past, this is a two-way stop. I'd say a little ways past there. We turned around and then came down, and we pretty much ended right here.
Did you tell him, hey, this is a good idea, go out there, race this guy?
Yeah, I did.
What did you tell him?
I just kind of, said you can beat this guy, kick his ass or something like that.
He raced, and he hit a light pole. He flew in the air, went through a sign, and landed in a U-Haul truck, and it burst into flames.
It was pretty intense. I ran over there because I was trying to get him out, and the other guy, Roy, that was bartending, he came out and was like, "No, get out, my gas tank's gonna blow." And of course it did.
Justin Lindsay died in the crash.
It's very hard when you're left to deal with that, not being able to say goodbye and having a box of ashes of your flesh and blood. Your baby.
Your only child.
My only child.
According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, 939 Americans died in illegal street racing accidents from 2001 through 2007. 29 people died last year in California alone.
I would bet that that number is conservative. I'd say at least 30% or more higher. I wouldn't be surprised if it was more.
For the last 3 years, Sergeant Skip Showalter has headed a street racing task force in Riverside, California, 50 miles east of Los Angeles. This summer, we were with him as he patrolled for illegal street racers.
It's kind of slammed down to the ground a little bit with the racing fender kits that we're seeing a lot of. I mean,
it's not your standard Honda Prelude.
Exactly. We live in a world today where people love powerful engines and powerful cars. It's exciting to them. The thrill of taking their cars out for a spin and maybe getting caught by the police, it's kind of thrilling.
25-year-old Brian Harrison says he's participated in hundreds of illegal street races in Arizona. He calls racing an addiction, fueled by thrills and gambling.
I thought I was the next James Dean. When I got out there, I would check over the car, start to blast the stereo a little bit, just get into that mode. That it's very exciting. Maybe get some goosebumps growing on my arm. And then, usually it's nighttime, you hook up with a couple friends and you head out to find some races.
Describe for me what a race is like for you.
We'd go exit to exit on the highway. The first person to reach this exit will win. There were certain rules. A, should you be pulled over, you never rat it out. B, should you crash, don't expect any help. C, it's your choice. If we're getting chased by cops, it's the first person to make it to that exit. So if you decide to leave and follow the highway or go a different route, well, you just lost the race.
If a cop were to pop this hood and look at it, he'd know immediately that this was not a street legal car, right?
That's correct. In many states, as soon as they see this, it gives them the grounds to impound the vehicle.
Street racing cars are often souped up for speed, with aftermarket parts that are sometimes stolen.
This street racer has decided to put a scanner in the box.
Catching racers is a challenge. They also modify their cars with stealth equipment to avoid police and traffic cameras.
You can shut off the brake lights, or shut off all the lights, which is a switch found right over here, hidden underneath the dash.
Why would you want to shut off your brake lights?
For example, if you were running from the cops and it was at nighttime, you could just have your driving lights on and then no lights in the back.
So you also have a device back here that flips the license plate?
Exactly. It looks like factory, so it shouldn't attract any attention, but with the flip of a button, this will fold down.
Flip the button. Illegal street racing transcends race, age, and class. Everyone, it seems, is susceptible to the lure, including pro athletes. In 2000, Bobby Phills of the Charlotte Hornets was killed driving his Porsche in what police and prosecutors described as an illegal street race against teammate David Wesley. Wesley was later acquitted of street racing, but convicted of reckless driving. In July, Josh Howard of the Dallas Mavericks was arrested for allegedly racing his Lexus at 94 miles per hour.
This car is around 140 to 150 miles per hour in the quarter.
Brian Harrison says he stopped street racing in 2002 after his best friend was riding as a passenger in an SUV driven by another friend that crashed while racing.
About 15 miles outside of Phoenix. The mutual friend decided to engage in an illegal street race. he rolled the SUV, and he killed my best friend.
Now Harrison leads an anti-street racing organization called Evo Street Racers. It encourages drivers to race at tracks like Toyota Speedway in Irwindale, California. Just one of the many tracks across the country where amateur drivers can race legally and safely.
This is the safe haven for street racers to be able to come out and show what they have to offer in terms of racing. It's really a great atmosphere because when people come out here to race or spectate, they're going to be treated in a very professional, safe environment.
I mean, it keeps the kids off the street and, you know, nobody's going to get killed.
First of all, it's safe here, you know, and then you don't got to worry about police giving you a ticket.
415 family 11598 Country Road.
Made any kind of modifications to your car, sir?
The Riverside Street Racing Task Force has stepped up its enforcement efforts with a $500,000 grant of state funds awarded after 2 fatal street racing accidents in the last 2 years.
I'm just telling people that have this kind of stuff to make sure that they don't get involved in racing.
In March, Sergeant Showalter was tipped off about a recurring gathering of street racers at a local parking lot.
We're going to go ahead and move in right now.
E60 was there with Showalter's team, which included more than 100 officers from 10 police departments when it swooped in for a raid. Hundreds of cars were checked for illegal modifications and stolen parts.
The sticker on the transmission is gone, which means it could be stolen.
All told, the police issued 150 tickets and 20 vehicles were seized. Some will never race again. They'll be destroyed by the authorities. The local fire department used this one for arson training.
Okay. Just stand over there to the curb, please.
But the police will probably never be able to eradicate street racing or to stop people such as Leanne Lindsay from losing their loved ones.
To what extent do you consider Justin responsible for his own death?
I think he's totally responsible for his own death. He made that choice to race those guys that night into conversation. Gone.